Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling, and on this episode, I'm bringing back a returning guest. I've had him on a couple times, author David Geldard, one of the authors of this excellent book right here in the Lap of the Gods. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, Tim. How are you?
I'm very good. And as people know, I like to do these chart episodes. This one is looking back 50 years and the British top 50 albums from this week in 1976. I thought that David would be a great choice to help me with this one. There are some names here. There are some names of artists that I am not familiar with. So uh, I'm hoping that he is. So yeah. David, if you're ready to go, we can get started. Is there anything you wanted to say about this particular chart or this time period?
Well, looking at it, because obviously you gave me the heads up prior to filming this, and a very interesting time. I think I was 2 years old at the time. I don't know about you, Tim.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Um, my very first memories are around about this time, but they're so hazy that I can't really remember a lot about them. Um, as you know, as I probably said before, that I grew up in a household with very young parents. My parents were 19 when I was born, so they were very into music. Music was a big part of our house, and I just think it's a very interesting time, this 1976, because if you look at the 1970s, the first half is kind of characterized by that sort of post-Beatles breakup era. And then UK sort of exploded with glam rock. So you had your T-Rex, your Bowie, Roxy Music, Queen, Sparks, Slade, Elton John, all that kind of stuff. By the middle of the 70s, obviously Queen and Bowie and Roxy Music are kind of transformed a bit, but a lot of the others kind of got left behind a little bit, I think it's fair to say. And things started changing. Now, by 1976, there were things happening in this country that are not reflected in this chart. By 1976, punk was underway,
Yeah, that's one thing
which
I'm
was
not
the
seeing. I'm not, everybody talks about punk in the late 70s. I'm not seeing any representation
yeah.
here.
And the other big one that was coming through was disco, which you can kind of see a little bit coming through on this list. And I think it tells a story if you look at the wider context of what was going on in the UK at the time, 1976. This was a period where there was massive inflation, there was instability in the government, massive unemployment. Albums were quite expensive at the time, so kids weren't really buying albums. Kids were more into buying singles at this time, and it was more adults. Now, if you look at as we go through the list, there's some quite strange ones that you wouldn't really expect to be there in
I,
1976.
there are some, yeah, I'm noticing that there are some that are quite, even for 1976, quite old.
Yes, we'll get to that in
So
a bit, then.
that makes sense when you say it's more of an adult thing, because yeah, it does not,
Yeah.
this really doesn't look like a young person's,
No, not at all.
having the pulse on the what's popular in music. So yeah, it's fascinating, and of course, yeah, I mean the main reason that the main reason I thought of David too was, I mean, a band that we both love is well represented here. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
they're what would have been their entire
Hello.
city at this point in time. I mean, so let's get started. So that so that David gets to do the number one, I'm going to start us off with number 50, and this is one of only six albums out of this chart that I actually own. This is Leonard Skinner with their fourth album, Give Me Back My Bullets, and this week it is down from 34 to 50, so probably last week in the top 50.
Lynyrd Skynyrd only came into my consciousness sort of late teens when I heard Freebird and Sweet Home Alabama. I don't recall a lot hearing them a lot in my childhood. I'm guessing it would have been different for you.
I didn't become really aware of them until the early 90s, to be quite honest with you, when I got into a lot of 70s rock. that's the same time period I would have gotten into Queen and Zeppelin and Deep Purple. I was just going back Kansas and um so no, it certainly wasn't anything that I grew up with. I mean, yeah, I'm like you. My early active memory starts around 3. Before that, I've seen pictures and home movies. That kind of helps a little bit, but I mean that's pretty young to have. I do
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
remember where we were living at that time because we weren't living there very long after that. But yeah, it's kind of hazy. So my musical taste um probably resolved around like Sesame Street and stuff that was made for kids.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, over to you at number 49.
Well, at number 49, last week's 48, we've got going back one place, we've got Desperado by the Eagles. Now, the Eagles, I can't remember a time that I didn't know who the Eagles were. The Eagles was kind of like a rare example, really, of a rock band that would have got played on UK radio in the daytime. Um, because the thing is, a lot of rock music was confined to like 2 hours late on a Friday night.
Yeah,
Um, UK radio, we had one national pop music station, and then you had your local commercial stations, and that was basically it. And they used to play it quite safe in the daytime, but the Eagles were melodic enough to, they could get away with playing that.
yeah,
One that might surprise you, although it's not really related to 1976, is like a great example of this though is Def Leppard. Def Leppard, around the time of Pyromania, were absolutely huge in America, Canada,
yeah,
other
yeah.
places in Europe, Japan. I had never heard Def Leppard until Animal, and I grew up.
I've heard that. Yeah, I know
Well,
Animal was their first big UK hit. Yeah, that kind of blows my mind.
we never heard them. Well, I didn't. I certainly never heard them on the radio, didn't see them on TV until they were on Top of the Pops playing Animal. And for a band that big, it's incredible, really, isn't it? But that kind of shows you sort of like the UK attitude to rock music.
Yeah. So you had what is it, the Friday, it was like the Friday Rock Show.
The Friday Rock Show with
Yeah.
Tommy Vance.
Yeah, yeah. Many a recording I've heard from the Friday Rock Show, and then you had the old Gray Whistle Test, and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's kind of like the Don Kirshner rock concert in the States in the 1970s. I mean, for really harder rock and progressive rock, that was like that's how you saw it, and that if you
yeah.
didn't see it there, you didn't see it. Fascinating. Number 48, quite a big band, I think, across the world. This week, their album Crisis, What Crisis drops from 39 to 48. That is Supertramp.
Great band. I haven't got that album, but great band.
I think that's the one where it's the guys in like the summer like deck chair, but it's like a ruin all around him. I think that's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah. I do like Superdrum. At 47, we got Get Right Into Him, Billy Connolly. Now, are you aware of Billy Connolly?
Oh yeah, it's funny. I mean, I know him more as an actor, but as I've done some older charts, I realized that yeah, he was like a comedian and put out comedy albums too. But yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, he did quite a lot of folk music as well. Very, very popular over here to this day. Um, Always makes me smile when he comes on the telly. Very, very naturally funny, gifted guy. Very good.
Number 46. This is interesting. This is where it starts to get into the what I guess we could good-naturedly call old folks music. The very best of Roger Whittaker. Now I know who Roger Whittaker is. He was worldwide popular. Now every Christmas his 1976 Christmas album is a perennial
Right.
in my
Okay.
wife's family, and she's introduced me to it. And my father used to have an album of his. Well, he probably still does somewhere in the attic, but so I know who he is, but it's not exactly the hip young thing, right? So
No,
yeah,
no.
his very best of is at 46 this week, down from 44.
Now then, at number 45, we've got, of course, one of the most recognizable albums of all time,
Yeah.
an absolute colossus in classic rock. There's probably not a home without one. We've got The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. That's the 50th anniversary one I pulled out there, not the I've got the other one with the normal cover. But yeah, what can you say? I think that probably stayed in the charts pretty much forever, didn't it?
It was on the Billboard charts in the US consecutively. I think wasn't until 1988 that it dropped out of the top 200, and then it would eventually come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolute genius album, and I don't think there's really a lot we can add to that because
Yeah.
you either know it or you don't. You know,
Yeah.
it's a massive, brilliant album.
Number 44. Now, this is interesting from someone that has looked through piles of records and eight-track cassettes. See this name a lot. Make the Party Last by James Last. Now, this drops from 38 to 44. Now, if I'm correct about this, was he one of those guys that did sort of orchestral versions of popular songs? Would that be a
Yeah,
good
I think it was
description,
more.
or
It was more like sort of
easy listening?
um, showbiz band type conductor. I think he was. He may have played the trumpet. I can't remember, but it was viewed by most young people or young people with taste as extremely cheesy. You know, it's something
Yeah.
that maybe your grandma had listened to or something like that. And this is the thing you see when I said about the social contacts in 1976 is that record companies, I believe, knew that people didn't have a lot of money. So sort of albums like this that were TV advertised,
Hmm.
they were safe revenue because some older people would buy it, you know, perhaps the ones who were retired in the daytime. It had two sides of songs that were safe bets. They knew all the songs, you know, and nowadays you just see them all in charity shops.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's other names. There's other names that I can think of that would fall into that category. But yeah. Now, we as we turn over to you for number 43, I would sum this up as this is more like it.
Yes, we've got the debut album by a little combo called Queen from this side of the pond.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think Queen initially didn't chart that highly, but if you think back to 1976, you're talking a couple of months since Bohemian Rhapsody was number one.
Hmm. Yep.
And also, as I said before, you know, the UK, we had three TV channels and they were intermittent. They weren't on all the time. Um, so we had BBC One, BBC Two, BBC, ITV. And on Christmas Eve 1975, Queen had a full hour or so of the live concert from the Hammersmith Odeon.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that was fresh in people's minds at this time. So yeah, Queen is at number 43. And it's one of those albums that I think is criminally, you know, underrated, overlooked. Some great, you know, Keep Yourself Alive, My Fairy King, Son and Daughter, some real top stuff there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know it to this day. People in the country, in the UK, say they like Queen, probably don't know half the songs on that.
You can really see the difference a hit single makes, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
there was no across the board hit single from this. As a matter of fact, in honor of this, having you on here, this cassette I have is actually a UK cassette
Oh, lovely.
on Fame EMI.
Oh, Fame, yes.
Yeah. So at no, okay, so once again, uh, your point is illustrated fully here. At number 42, we have Glenn Miller Memorial, 1944 to 1969, I think that says. Now this is definitely old people's music. I mean, this music was old when I was just a kid. It was on the backs of some of the old Christmas albums that we owned. Is the only way I knew Glenn Miller's name.
Yeah, I think you know, there's a lot of uncertainty this time, financial uncertainty, the way Britain was going. Perhaps the Glenn Miller stuff is thinking back to the end of the war, perhaps Britain's finest hour, having a bit of nostalgia for that feeling about Britain, because things were not going great at this time. You
That
know,
makes
things were
sense.
changing. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
perhaps it was a bit of a nostalgia factor with that, as well as, you know, like I said, the you know the TV advertised stuff as well. You know.
And there's more. Number 41.
Yeah, there's another one. I've got to say though, to this day, you know, Glenn Miller music still has its fans. There's still live shows here of the Glenn Miller Orchestra and it represents that period of time for people, doesn't it?
Oh
Perfectly.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Something for everyone.
yeah, I mean, it's don't get me wrong, it's great music, but it's just not what you expect in the
And
rock
when
and
you're
pop chart.
yeah, I'm very surprised at this point in time. So yeah, he's got another album here in the charts.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, so that's a legendary performer, Glenn Miller and his orchestra. Both new entries that week.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, so this next one is one I want to ask you about. At number 40, up from 45, it is Breakaway from Gallagher and Lyle. Now, I do not know who that is.
I think, perhaps should have researched this before I come on. I think they were like a easy listening folk duo. Did they make Wear Your Heart on Your Sleeve?
I can't answer
Just
that. I
wear
don't
your
know.
heart on your sleeve, wear your heart on. I don't know.
Yeah. On A&M
Not
Records,
entirely.
so it's a major label release, but I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
familiar. Yeah. I'm not familiar
Uh,
with the next one either. Maybe you can enlighten me on that
oh,
too.
Peters and Lee, right. Going back in time to my childhood, like I say, only three channels, there was a lot of sort of variety shows on TV where you'd get a host, a comedian, perhaps, I don't know, a juggler or something, an impressionist, and you would get a musical act. And Peters and Lee were on those all the time. And I can't remember which one was which, but the guy was a blind guy with a young lady. They were a pair of singers, and he used to wear dark shades. Had a bit of a kind of later Roy Orbison look about him.
Okay.
I couldn't name one of the songs.
That's interesting. And it's funny because when you mention that and I look at those names, I if someone said, "What do you think this is musically?" That's probably about what I would have guessed. At number 38. Now this I mean I do know who this is. It's a debut this week. Walk Right Back with the Everlys by the Everly Brothers. Obviously they were hugely popular in the early 60s, the two brothers, Phil and Don. But yeah, at this point it would have been years since they had been on the chart. So this is more of that nostalgia at work.
Yeah, I guess so. And the other factor that perhaps we didn't talk about before, all the guys who originally bought all these as singles, the singles would have probably been a bit worn out by this point. So it's
Yeah,
probably
good,
handy to get an
good, I
album with all the tracks on.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Now then, at number 37,
Hmm.
gone down a position from the week before. We've got Queen again with Queen 2.
This is another UK cassette.
Now,
Absolutely love this one.
a lot of Queen fans who I know from through the convention, and indeed my best mate John Fowler, uh, this is their favourite Queen album.
Yeah,
And again, it contains a lot of tracks that the Joe public probably don't know, apart from maybe the Seven Seas of Rhye.
yeah,
It's probably the most prog rock Queen album.
yeah.
But if
I
you
would
like
say it
Bohemian,
is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
If you like the harmonies, if you like the sort of Bohemian Rhapsody structure and the going from a ballad to a heavy one and all that, you're probably going to love this album. One famous fan of this album is Axl Rose,
Yep.
who's numerous times has said it's his favorite album of all time.
Yeah, if you want to hear, I would say the roots of where Bohemian Rhapsody came from. Listen to the March of the Black
Yeah.
Queen. I mean, it's kind of there. But I love that whole suite of Ogre Battle, the Fairy Feller's Masterstroke, Nevermore. You get it. It's all right there. And Ogre Battle for 1974. That's a heavy riff of a song. And what I love about that one is that usually Brian May wrote the heavy Queen songs, but that one was Freddie. He wrote that.
Apparently, he wrote it on the guitar as well, I read.
Yeah, yeah, great. It's a great riff.
um,
But yeah, it's a great album, kind of a concept album. It's got a light side and a dark side. Very, very prog friendly for sure.
yeah, yeah. What always makes me think, Tim, as well, I wonder how many people who were late to the party and come in with Bohemian Rhapsody just went into the record shop,
Yeah,
saw that cover,
cover.
and
Yeah,
thought, right, that's the one with Bohemian Rhapsody on.
yeah. Always read the back. But yeah, it's interesting that pose. That's such an iconic pose. And there's been lots of record albums. There's been lots of albums since then where people try to redo that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. At number 36 this week, it's down from 27. The best of the Stylistics. Now they were, I think, a U.S. R&B group. They had a lot of big hits, like I think that was the group that's in that Betcha by Golly Wow, and but so we're getting a little bit more into songs that were, I guess popular with slightly younger audiences here.
Yeah, yeah. I remember my parents really liking the Stylistics, and they were very typical of music that would be on the radio. Perhaps when you went out places, you'd hear the Stylistics
Yeah.
playing, to a cafe or whatever. They were very much of 1976, very representative, I think, the Stylistics. And, it's not my preferred genre of music, but they wrote good, timeless songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it me next?
Yeah. Number 35.
The Four Seasons Story. So again, it's a new entry, and I'm guessing this is Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons,
I would say so. Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
kind of yeah, and it's kind of the same with the Everly Brothers. It's that nostalgia factor again. Um, I'm trying to think if there's any sort of films or anything that it would have been related
Well,
to, but
around this time, though, you're right about it being, like the Everly Brothers, except the Four Seasons did have a huge hit around this time with that December 1963. Oh, what a night!
yeah,
That
yeah,
was. I don't know if that's on here, but that certainly would have revived interest in the name.
right. Yes, you're right. So I've just looked across at the singles. The single was actually number two
Yeah.
in the UK at the time. So yeah, I'm wrong on that. It's not a nostalgia thing. They were current.
At number 34, this is down from 18. Timeless Flight by Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel. Now, this is a name, Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel, I've read a lot about, like in Classic Rock magazine, but I'm really not familiar with them. So maybe you can, I know they were fairly big in the UK. I don't think they were big over here. I think the albums came out over here, but I don't think they were very big over here.
I have the greatest hits, and I don't think this is the biggest album. I think the biggest album was called Psycho Mondo. But Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel were very much of that sort of glam rock era. Um, if you listen to stuff like Queen, Roxy Music, Bowie, Mott the Hoople, you're probably going to like Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel. Of course, the big one that everyone knows is "Come Up and See Me, Make Me Smile,"
Right. Yeah. I know
which
that.
was in the Full Monty, and it's been in other movies as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And there
Yeah, I
was one
don't.
called Mr. Soft that was quite. Do you remember that one, Mr. Soft?
No, doesn't ring a bell. And maybe if I heard it,
Uh,
I'd recognize it.
And they had a big hit with the cover of "Here Comes the Sun" as well.
Okay.
But they were quite a big group over here, Cockney Rebel. Yeah. So sorry, it's me again, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next one we've got. Oh, do I attempt to say this? Rodrigo Consergio de Villa Los Bos or
I
whatever it's called.
Ian Wes. I'm not really sure.
Iron West Villa Los Bos.
I know
John
that.
Williams, which he's a great guy, isn't he? John Williams, Star Wars, and
Yeah. So
all
this
those.
must be a this has got to must be a soundtrack
Yeah.
to a movie. But yeah, I'm not familiar with this at all.
Um, no, I can't say anything about it. I've absolutely no idea what that is.
No. Number 32, certainly an artist that, people still know today. Up two spots, Rod Stewart and Atlantic Crossing. I think this was his, I can picture the album cover because I think it was literally he moved to the US. So this was his
Yeah.
way of, crossing the Atlantic. But now I can't remember what songs came off this particular one, but I have seen the album a lot. So it must have been a big one.
I think Sailing was on this one.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
But again, this is Rod Stewart was going through kind of transitional phase. He started off with that sort of the glam rock era with the Faces, and he'd done sort of like almost like Led Zepp stuff with Jeff
Jeff
Beck.
Beck. Yeah. Yeah.
And he was going more towards his solo career at this point, and he went towards disco after this.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rod Stewart was going through a bit of a transitional phase here, but yeah, I mean, he did all right in the UK throughout the 70s and 80s, to be honest. I don't think he had many flops.
No, and but all the way through the 80s and a lot of the 90s, I mean, you'd have a steady, hit a year at least. Uh,
Sorry, I'm just looking for another. I think I might have, but I'm not sure where it is. Yeah, I've got another one there. Right, so the next one, Rolled Gold, the Rolling Stones. Now I haven't got that one, but I've got lots of similar ones. Of course, the Stones have had lots of compilations over the years. So I'm guessing this would have come out as perhaps this was like a bit of a stopgap before Black and Blue come out, I think maybe.
yeah, Black and Blue is the 76 album. I also noticed this is on Decca, which I'm guessing it's mostly older material, right?
Yes. Yes, this will be like the pre 1970 stuff, won't it?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it could have been one of those TV advertised ones, let's cash in on the nostalgia. I don't know. I think it's an album you see quite a lot of though, so it must have sold quite well.
Yeah, I can picture the record cover for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Number 30, a band we've already talked about. This one was their current album, 45 up to 30. Yeah, another iconic Hypnosis cover. We've got Pink Floyd with Wish You Were Here.
yeah, that's Wish You Were Here, and I love that album. Absolutely love it. I got into Pink Floyd quite late, really. I remember them being number one with a brick in the wall. That was one of the first songs I can remember. It scared the hell out of me, the video.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I've got the poster behind me there, haven't
yeah,
I? The video where there's like an animation of a teacher pushing kids into a mincemeat machine, and that
yeah.
was on like
It's very, yeah, no, I remember it. I mean, I remember thinking, what is going on?
I just started infant school when I saw that, and it scared the hell out of me. And that was on
Yeah.
like TV at 7 o'clock.
Well, because
Uh,
you're not used to seeing you're not used to seeing a cartoon like an animation that's of something scary, right? You figure if it's cartoon, it's not going to be very graphic or violent.
I think there was only twice that something on Top of the Pops really freaked me out. One was that, and the other one was David Bowie, the Ashes to Ashes video.
Yeah,
I
I could
thought
see.
that
I didn't see that for years later, but yeah, I can see that was like I was. It's funny. It's great. This is a great conversation to have because I was what you would call a timid child. I used to get freaked out by certain things. Kate Bush used to scare me.
was.
Um, but it was a strange combination of being like scared and at the same time I wanted to watch. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
make of that what you will. Um, so yeah, Pink Floyd at number 30. So yes, now we're
Yeah, so just to add on to that, yeah, I was quite late when I got into Pink Floyd, round about just before the Division Bell come out, maybe. And I was
okay.
working at a shoe shop in Hazel Grove called Windsor's World of Shoes, and we were allowed to play cassettes on the shop floor through the shop system. So we had a cassette that was Dark Side of the Moon on one side and Wish You Were Here on the other. And we played it non-stop for about 3 weeks until people absolutely were going to kill us if we didn't turn it off. But we're kind of addicted to it. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so over to you at 29.
At 29, Simon and Garfunkel's Greatest Hits. Um, I absolutely love Simon and Garfunkel. Again, it's not 1976, but good to listen to at any time. And perhaps it's that thing again of the 60s generation replacing their battered singles or whatever,
Yeah.
getting them all on nice one compilation.
I remember a couple of years ago, I did a chart. I did a similar chart to this, where it was the top 50 albums. Might actually have been the top 60. I think it was a different magazine source than this one. But I did one from 1970, and I think the entire Simon and Garfunkel catalog was represented in the
Yeah, yeah.
chart, like every one of their albums. So they were obviously huge in the UK. And as we'll see, I can understand maybe why it would still be popular because one of those guys was having a quite a successful solo career. But at number 28, big jump this week, up from 41, the aforementioned Eagles with
One of these nights.
One of These Nights. So this was I believe this was the last album with Oh, and his name is going to go right out of my head. Not Randy Meis. Maybe it is Randy Meisner. But it's the last album before Joe Walsh joined. But yeah, I mean, all of their albums were really big.
So growing up in Canada, then, how visible were the Eagles? Were they everywhere, or
It's interesting. It's like my parents didn't listen to much for contemporary um, music at the time. And it's funny, we're getting to someone I used to hear a lot of in my house growing up. Um, but I once I started paying attention to music and paying attention to the charts, this would have been around the mid 80s. So by this time there were songs like Boys of Summer by Don Henley and The Heat Is On by Glenn Fry, and I would hear the DJ say, "Oh, they used to be in the Eagles." And then I would start hearing songs like Heartache Tonight and Hotel California and realize I knew the songs, I just didn't know who sang them. So I must have heard these songs on the radio.
so at number 27, it's also the Eagles, and I've got this one on compact disc.
Yeah.
There we go. I don't know if you can see that in the light.
Oh
That's the
yeah,
Eagle.
iconic. I mean, I think just recently it had a new certification. It's one of the biggest selling albums of all time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, deservedly so. I think they're a great band myself.
Yeah.
Um, and I know it's some may say it's an overplayed song, but California, when it gets to that guitar section,
Oh,
that
it's
just that just sends me now. It's brilliant.
yeah. At number 26, I've heard of this group. I think it's R&B, but I'm not really familiar. The Fatback Band, and the album's called Raising Hell, debuting this
No,
week. It's the highest debut of the week.
no, not a clue really.
I think it's R&B, and I also think this is a
Yeah,
group that was sampled a lot for hip hop.
yeah.
But that's about all I
I,
know.
the first thought was "Oops Upside Your Head," but that was the Gap Band,
That
wasn't
was
it?
a Gap band. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's something that my mum and my stepdad would know this because they like the R&B and the soul and that, and I just yeah, I can't really remember it to tell you the truth. No.
All right.
Number 25, 20 Songs of Joy by the Nigel Brooks Singers. Now that's on KTEL, which kind of tells you a
I
story.
was going to say that says as seen on TV. You know,
Yeah, that's
KTEL
seen.
actually started in Canada out of Winnipeg.
Did it?
Yeah, and I can't think of the guy's name, but his name ended in K. And KTEL compilation albums were ubiquitous. They were everywhere.
Yeah, so that would have had heavy TV promotion. And the Nigel Brooks Singers, I don't know if you get many of our sort of old comedy shows over there, but things like the two Ronnies and Morecambe and Wise, they would have like a musical guest spot. And quite often it was someone who was like easy listening, and it'd be like the so and so singers, or
Gotcha.
occasionally they'd have someone really good, like they paid a few bob extra and got Elton John or something, But most of the time it was like these really easy listening old people's things.
Yeah. Uh, at number 24, here's another one I'm going to need your help with. Up from 31, Scotch on the Rocks from Band of the Black Watch. This does not ring a bell with me at all.
That sounds to me like it might be Scottish bagpipe music, sort of traditional.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure though. 23, Love to Love You Baby, Donna Summer. Well, this is something that's very of the era again, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. This is the
Um,
beginnings of
the
disco.
disco, yeah.
Yeah.
Love to Love You Baby was an iconic song. Of course, the massive breakthrough with Donna Summer was later on with the um, I Feel Love. That's it. I
Yes,
Feel Love.
yeah, that's right.
The Giorgio Moroder one, which years ago I used to do some DJing, and if you ever stand in the middle of the speakers while that's playing loud, it has an amazing stereo effect.
Oh, yeah.
It
It's,
sounds brilliant.
yeah, Giorgio Moroder was a genius. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. At number 22, this was a group that was fairly current at the time. I really can only think of one song of theirs, but the best of Gladys Knight and the Pips. I mean, I know uh, uh, Midnight Train to Georgia, and I know who Gladys Knight is, but that's about it.
Yeah, Gladys Knight and the Pips. Now this is down as being on Buddha Records, but I associate them with Motown.
I think they
Um,
were at one time.
yeah, yeah. Um, a band really whose records I've always enjoyed. I really like the James Bond one she did, License to Kill.
All right.
Yeah, they did several good songs. I thought they were a good band, to be honest. Again, not my genre, but I can really appreciate.
The other song I can think that featured her was That's What Friends Are For with
Oh yeah,
Dionne
yeah,
Warwick and
yeah,
Stevie Wonder and Elton John. She was the
yeah,
fourth
yeah.
vocalist on that. But now we're back to more familiar territory for you and
Oh
I.
yeah. Sheer Heart Attack. Again, this is a couple of years old at this point. Sorry, this is an even one. Do you want to?
No, no, you got it. That's 21. We're right.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, yeah. By this point, it's 2 years old. Massively influential album, particularly on the likes of Def Leppard, Metallica, Guns N' Roses. Of course, you got things on there like Killer Queen, which is their big breakthrough hit, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I'm Here, which was a massive hit. And again, something like Stone Cold Crazy, which was like almost like thrash metal in
Proto
its early
thrash
form.
and yeah, 1974. I mean, the fact of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
matter is that Metallica were able to cover that song and not do that much to it. I mean, it was right
No, no,
there.
no.
The framework for it was right there. Killer Queen was the worldwide. That was the first worldwide hit single, and I'm gonna guess it's probably the earliest Queen song that your average listener would know right away.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
soon as you hear the, as soon as that comes on, you
Um,
know exactly what's coming. But a really entertaining album.
for some reason, when I was in my sort of late teens, early 20s, and I had those first nights, out with your mates drinking and all that, Sheer Heart Attack was always the one I put on before a night out and when I was getting ready in the shower and stuff. And, I could sing my way all the way from Brighton Rock to In the Lap of the Gods Revisited at the end. I knew every word.
I remember the first time I listened to this album, I had headphones on, and when it got to the end of In the Lap of the Gods Revisited and that explosion happened, I wasn't expecting it.
Oh,
La 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 la. Boom. And also another band that I really like, Dream Theater,
yeah,
great
yeah.
U.S. prog band. They put out an album out in 2009 called Black Clouds and Silver Linings, but a bonus disc that they put out with that had a bunch of cover songs on it, and in a row they do Tenement Funster, Flick of the Switch, and Lily of the Valley, and it's really, really well done.
I think Tenement Funster might just be the most underrated Queen song of all time.
I mean, how cool was Roger Taylor? I mean, you just
Oh,
couldn't,
definitely.
yeah,
I interviewed Spike from the Choir Boys on my
hmm
radio show once,
yeah.
and we were talking about Queen, and he said Roger was my favourite because he was the good-looking one who got all the birds.
And that he had that cool raspy voice. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and those high harmonies. Yeah, such an essential part of the band. So at number 20, holding this week, this is another band that I've heard a lot about, and I've seen a lot of people post their album covers. I'm really not familiar with them. Sunburst Finish by Bebop Deluxe. I really don't know anything about this band other than I know
No,
what some of their album covers look like.
I'm not really sure. Was that like pub rock?
I don't know if it was pub rock or what you'd call it. I really don't know. I mean, it's the album covers almost look like they would be heavy, but I don't think they are. And I know
No,
that the guitar player and the main guy in the band was named Bill Nelson, but that's really where my knowledge ends.
it's one that people are probably going to have a go at me for not knowing that. But I honestly, no, I've never really listened
I
to
think
them.
they were American,
Were
but
they?
yeah, I think so. And I know they opened for a lot of big groups, but I don't think they were ever that big themselves.
Right. So at 19, we've got Still Crazy After All These Years, Paul Simon.
Yeah.
Um, so I do like Paul Simon a lot. However, that era was quite middle of the road and very easily almost sleepy music. I thought.
We'd call it AM radio. It wasn't
Yeah, yeah,
FM. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
very, yeah, it was very adult contemporary or But a great songwriter. Um,
Yeah, yeah, brilliant songwriter. I mean, I prefer the stuff like Graceland or the other singles they had, like 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover and Mother and Child Reunion, and
yeah.
those ones are really good. Perhaps the greatest hits artist for me.
So number 18. Now this was a current artist that I heard a lot of when I was a young child. Um, I guess it's a self-titled album from ABBA. I know their early album releases were different around the world. I'm a little surprised to see this on Epic because when I think of ABBA, my parents both liked them. They had their first greatest hits album. It came in a gatefold cover and it had each of the couples sitting on like a park bench on each
Yes, I
side of the
remember. Yeah,
gatefold. And so for me, I associate that because it was on Atlantic Records and it had the red and green Atlantic label on the record itself. So years later, when I would get albums by, Rat and Skid Row and it would have that same label on it. But I know they were on different labels throughout the world. But there was a band that I mean they just had so many hits and deservedly so. I mean the Benny and Bjorn could write songs that were just instantly catchy in your head and it was disco enough to survive the disco era, but it was just good pop.
they were great melodies, and that's the thing. It's very difficult to write you know, uh, a memorable melody, and they were really good
Yeah.
at that. I mean,
And they kept doing it for years.
yeah, yeah.
It's
And even after ABBA broke up, they went on to write musicals and like Chess
one
and
night in Bangkok. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
didn't know for years that they co-wrote that. It was like that makes no wonder it's so catchy.
yeah, yeah. And they've never really gone out of fashion. They've always been massively loved in the UK. I'm guessing the same in Canada.
Oh yeah, I mean you've
Um,
always seen any department store you'd see that ABBA Gold compilation. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I haven't really got any beef with that. But I wouldn't watch the film. It's not my sort of thing. But
No, no,
no,
no.
great pop music.
Yeah.
Right, at number 17, we got Elite Hotel by Emmylou Harris, who was a country and western artist. Is she still alive? Is she still
Oh
going? I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if she's still recording. I would imagine she still is. But yeah, she was a sort of a country Americana um not really country rock, although I do know she sang on I know she sang on some of Neil Young's records, so very highly respected. I can't really think of any songs. I'm sure if somebody pointed them out, I would know them, but I just know who she is.
It's a strange country music in the UK. It sort of has waves of popularity. I can think a few years after this, in the late 70s, Kenny Rogers was massively
Oh, Kenny
popular for a
Rogers
while.
was huge. I mean, yeah, my mother had a ton of Kenny Rogers records and went to see him in concert and went to see him and Dolly Parton in concert and yeah, for sure. So at number 16, it's down one this week, Amadon by Mike Oldfield. I mean, Mike Oldfield, of course, best known for another album, which is coming up in the chart. But yeah, he had a huge career. Not strictly instrumental. I know that he did have vocal songs, but he had other people singing them. Yeah, I don't know a lot about Mike Oldfield, but I do know that he had a lot of albums and a very successful career. And he was quite young when he started, was he not?
Yeah, yeah. Very gifted musician. Um, I've not got that particular one. What I can listen to Mike Oldfield all day long. I think he's great.
All right,
So
number 15.
number 15. I think this one may have been in my granddad's collection, actually. I think he might have had this one on cassette. I'm not sure which particular album it was, but it's 40 Greatest Hits by Perry Como, which had just fallen out of the top 10.
Yeah,
And Perry Como always makes me think of magic
yeah.
moments.
Yeah,
That one.
very, very easy listening. I think the one I think of is Catch a Falling Star. Put it in your pocket, save it for a rainy day. I think that's him.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but very much, yeah, in that sort of nostalgic vein. Number 14, of course, one of the most influential artists of all time, and this was a very well respected period for him. Yeah, David Bowie, Station to Station, also falling out of the top 10 this week, ten down to 14.
Yeah, so yeah, again, another artist who's in a bit of a transition there. He'd gone from all the glam rock stuff of Funky Dory, Ziggy, Pin-Ups, Aladdin Sane. He'd had Diamond Dogs, Young Americans. Of course, after this, he went on to the Berlin trilogy, which
Yeah.
was Heroes, Low, and Lodger.
Yeah.
Uh, so he started bringing in sort of like Kraftwerk and electronic influences. Station to Station feels like it's kind of in the middle of all that. It's got Golden Years, which sounds like it could have been on Young Americans.
Oh yeah, that was a big song all over
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world. Yeah.
TBC 15, which he played at Live Aid. The Station to Station, the title track, which could have been on one of the Berlin albums. But yeah, it's a really strong album. One of my favorites.
So now we're up to another album by
Oh,
the
sorry,
artist we
me
just
again.
talked about.
You have to do some editing here.
Oh no, no, this
um,
you're doing great.
yeah, well, I have actually got this one, but I can't. I need to go through a good route through my hundreds of albums.
I can picture the
Tubular,
cover plain as day, what it looks
yeah.
like. Yeah.
In fact, I think I might even have two copies of it, to be honest with you. Tubular Bells, Mike Oldfield. Somebody will be asking me for the other one now, won't they? Now they've seen that. Which, for a lot of people, might bring to mind The Exorcist.
Yeah. Yeah. Haunting,
Uh,
haunting melody, like even without that association. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But a great album, a great instrumental album. And he even did, I think, two and three in the 90s, didn't he?
Yeah, he did
I,
follow them up. Yeah.
I really liked the second one as well. That was a really good album. Like I say, I can listen to Mike Oldfield all day long. He's done some stunning stuff, and it's great just when you want to chill out. You lay back and stick that on and just let it wash over you.
Yeah. Yeah. At number 12, another compilation, up two spots. Motown Gold, various artists. So I'm not sure if this is all 60s stuff, but it could be 60s and 70s. I mean, Motown had successful artists all the way through, at least the 80s and probably into the
Yeah,
90s too.
I'm guessing something that maybe we've not addressed in all this. If you think about the technological advances of 1976, when people had bought the initial sort of Motown singles or the Everly Brothers or whatever, you would have had very small, perhaps poor quality little record players. By this time, people are getting more into stereo, um, and perhaps it was nice to have these all in one album and listen to it on a proper sound system for the first time,
Yeah.
rather than the old 1960s little dancettes or whatever they were. I mean, and the first thing I can remember in our family, we had a radiogram. Do you remember those?
Radiogram.
They
Uh,
were like a piece of furniture with speakers in it, but they looked like a table or something. And you opened it up and there was a
Yeah,
turntable in
I
it.
now I know what you're talking about. I actually didn't know what they were called, but
Yeah,
the funny thing is, if I'm picturing this correctly, David, when I first moved into my house that I'm in now, the people that nobody had lived in it for a couple of years, and and it took up almost the length of an entire wall. It was this big cabinet thing on feet, uh, like the old television sets, and it had you lifted up the hood and propped it open like you would a car hood, and it had a turntable and a radio and an 8-track player. And if I'd have had the money, we ended up throwing it out, but if I'd had the money, I would have gotten it restored. But
yeah.
yeah, those and my grandparents, if I'm remembering correctly, had something similar to that. It was a very, very big unit, and this one was a little bit different because it didn't open from the top; it opened from the side, and the turntable pulled out. It was on like drawer slides, so you could easily get at the record. And I can remember still putting like a stack of records on it so that when one side would finish, the next record would drop down. I can't remember how that worked, but brings back great memories, that's for sure.
And the other thing as well is when we upgraded from that, we got like what was known at the time as a music center. So that kind of looked like a turntable flat with a cassette player on it and a tuner all in one.
Yeah. Yeah,
It was like,
we had one of those. It had ours had a hood like a plastic hood that you'd put
Yes,
over a
yeah.
dust
I
cover.
did, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't. I'm trying to think of the company. The
Think
Lloyd's,
I'm,
I think, was a brand name over here that was quite popular.
yeah, we had one, Waltham. I'll send you photographs so you can put them up on.
I've heard the name Waltham too. Yeah,
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 yeah. But yeah, that's the other thing we've not mentioned. Cassettes. Cassettes were becoming really popular.
yeah,
So perhaps people were buying these to have in the car.
yeah. Yeah, definitely I mean, 8 tracks weren't as popular, I guess, in the UK as they were in North America, but that was the predominant of the 70s because they were portable and you could put a player in your vehicle and listen to whatever you wanted to listen to. Me growing up, I do remember seeing a lot of records, but by the time the 80s would roll around, just about everybody I knew bought cassettes. It was a long time before I started to see CDs, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
been interesting living through all these different formats.
Yeah.
So yeah, over
But
to you at number 11.
number 11, we've got 24 original hits by the Drifters. Um, Kind of really similar to Motown in a way, I think.
Oh yeah, so this would have been
Um,
Benny King,
yeah,
Save the Last Dance for Me,
Saturday Night in the Movies.
Up on the Roof.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, there's another real obvious one that's avoiding me right now, but yeah, that was a big band.
yeah, Saturday Night in the Movies, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
And the difference
you
was
know,
it wasn't Motown, they were on Atlantic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of always reminds me of films, really. You find a lot of their music in
Oh yeah.
films, don't you?
Yeah.
So at number 11,
Yeah.
uh,
No, that was 11.
oh, sorry, I
Yeah.
keep looking at the last week.
I know we're excited. I'm excited to talk about this too. Now we're in the top
Sorry,
10
go on,
and
go on, go on, it's yours.
this is where it started for me. Like, cause once this would have been 92 when Bohemian Rhapsody was getting popular again, but I just happened to hear this record around the same time. And so instead of buying the Wayne's World soundtrack, I bought this on CD. I mean, this is one of my favorite albums of all time, A Night at the Opera. This is an old US cassette on the Elektra Records, but this album is just a masterpiece. I mean, in 4 songs of hearing
I've
it,
got a few copies of it.
I was absolutely hooked at the sheer variety. I mean, Death on Two Legs came on and it had piano in it, but it was heavy and it was menacing. Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon, which was like a soundtrack to like a silent Charlie Chaplin film. Then you had I'm in Love with My Car. I didn't know it was Roger singing. I just thought, wow, Freddie can do weird things with his voice, but I love the song. And then it was You're My Best Friend, which is this smooth sort of, 70s pop tune. I just couldn't believe it. And I'm like, I got to buy this album. So that's what started my Queen collection was buying a Night at the Opera. So yeah. And this would have been very popular at the time because like you said, Bohemian Rhapsody was out off and running now.
Yeah, and the old Grey Whistle Test concert had been
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
They were,
The Night at the Odeon, which thankfully they
yeah,
eventually put
yeah.
out. Yeah.
They're on a bit of a role queen at this point.
Yeah.
I think at that time as well, it was the most expensive album ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Roy Thomas Baker didn't believe in cost cutting.
No, no, I always think of it as Queen's Sergeant Pepper.
Yeah, it's a delight for the ears to listen to, like with and almost every song. There's so many, and I've got a documentary that came out in the UK from just called Classic Albums, which talks about A Night at the Opera and the making of it. And it's fascinating talking about the the horn the horn sounds that Brian would do on Good Company, but it's he did it on guitar and all this just crazy stuff, but very cool.
Last year with my wife, we went for a week in Monmouth where Bohemian Rhapsody was recorded, and we went for lunch in a Pizza Express, and the Pizza Express had all the lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody all over the wall. Very nice.
So Monmouth is where Rockfield Studios.
Rockfield Studios,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's classic. I mean, Yes recorded there, and one of my favorite Canadian bands, Rush, recorded there. Like
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
that name on a lot of great albums.
Nice place.
Yeah.
Right, at number 9, this one's an interesting one because this album, without a word of a lie, was recorded about a mile away from where I was living at the time.
Wow.
Uh, it was recorded at Strawberry Studios in Stockport,
Yeah.
and it's 10cc. How dare you? So, yeah, they were another band who were massive at the time. Um, I think Strawberry Studios was quite an innovative studio because it was like the first. I think it was the first one up north, really, because all the others had been based in London. So they went on to record people like the Smiths and Joy Division and the Ramones, and Paul McCartney recorded there. I think they did the mastering for Led Zeppelin's In Through the Outdoor. Load of Manchester bands, the Buzzcocks and so forth. And where Strawberry Studios used to be on a road called Waterloo Road, at the top of there on Hillgate, there used to be a little bakery. And if we were going to Stockport on a Saturday to do the week shopping and whatever, you'd often see 10cc in the bakery buying pasties.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, they were, I know they were huge in the UK. I mean, they had a lot of success in North America, but it was just more about, there's two or three singles. Obviously, I'm Not in Love is a classic, and The Things We Do
Mm.
for Love. And I know that I know Godley and Cream came from this band and went on to be not only recording artists in their own right, but of course innovative video directors. And that album cover, like a lot of theirs, was just done by Hypnosis, which is very. They had such a unique look to their album covers too.
There was a bus stop right outside it, and when I was a kid, you could just about see into the windows. And used to be on my tiptoes because you could see all the gold discs on the wall. And I used to be like that trying to read the gold disc, but I couldn't quite reach high enough.
Yeah.
And there was a pub opposite called the Waterloo, and the legend has it that one night they were getting ready for closing and knocked come to the door, and it was Paul McCartney, and they gave him a lock in. And I often think, I was too young at the time, but God, Paul McCartney in a pub a mile away.
Yeah.
I wish I'd been in that night.
Yeah. At number 8, holding this week, Queen Connection here, of course, but and another Hypnosis cover, Bad Company. This would have been their third
Yeah,
album, Run with the Pack, and so this is holding at 8. Now this is interesting too that they were on Island Records in the UK, and yet they were on Swan Song Atlantic in I think most of the world.
yes. Well, Free had been on Island Records, hadn't they? Well, they were over here anyway.
Who was
Paul
that?
Rogers. Free.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Free. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but famously, Bad Company were one of the first bands to release an album on Swan Song after it was recorded. Because Zeppelin were in between albums. I don't think
Yeah,
Zeppelin,
yeah.
yeah, Zeppelin's first Swan Song album was Physical Graffiti.
Um, I got into Free first, and I'm quite surprised really that Bad Company got that high in the UK charts because you never really heard them that much on UK radio. You're more likely to hear Free, All Right Now or Wishing Well or My Brother Jake. Um, but perhaps that's just my age that I don't remember it.
It's interesting too because Bad Company were, I mean, obviously they were a UK band. They were very American sounding in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
I mean, they were huge in North America. Like they, much bigger than Free. Because Free, aside from All Right Now, that was basically it as far as they were very influential. And Paul Rogers, of course, is a vocalist, but it's weird because yeah, they had a lot of albums in a very short amount of time, but there was something Bad Company, just that combination seemed to just click with everybody.
And while we're on the subject of Bad Company, it's worth checking this out as well.
Very good
Uh,
stuff. Yes, I reviewed that album. That is very,
yeah.
very, very good. It's not a terribly deep song selection, but for the most part, I think they're very, very well done.
Some great versions on it. Really,
Yeah.
really. I mean, it helps that I like all the bands on it to start off with. I've got my little tag there today with Happy Birthday, Mum and Mick. I got it for my birthday. That's nice, isn't it?
But yeah,
Yeah, great album.
very, very good tribute album, and I really like the obviously being such a big Def Leppard fan, I really like Seagull.
Yeah, Seagull's great.
Yeah,
The Struts, Dirty Honey,
yeah.
um, Slash,
Blackberry Smoke, Run with the Pack is one of my favorites on the album. That's very well done.
Blackstone Cherry, isn't it?
Both.
Is it?
No, I think it's Blackberry Smoke that does Run with the Pack. I know they're very similar names.
Oh, sorry. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
My bad.
yeah.
My bad.
There were a lot
Anyway,
of bands that came out with very similar names at one point. Yeah,
Black Snow Cherry, Black Crows,
yeah.
Black,
And a lot in the 90s, I always joke all these bands with numbers in them.
yes.
Matchbox 20, Blink 182, like Eve 6, there were so many.
You could have done bingo with them, couldn't you?
Yes.
Um, Number seven, Desire, Bob Dylan. I've got a few Dylan albums, and that isn't one of them, so I don't know what's on it.
That one, I only know this because I did an episode with a friend of mine that had this record. This has the song Hurricane on it, which was about
Ah, right, yeah.
the
That's about a
boxers.
boxer?
Yeah, Hurricane
Yeah, yeah.
Carter. Yeah. At okay, number six, up one, Carnival by Manuel and the Music of the Mountains. No idea.
Right. I did some research on that, and that's by it's actually a UK orchestra leader called Jeff Love, I
Okay.
believe. And he did a lot of stuff for TV,
Okay.
like or easy listening orchestral stuff.
Yeah, the label didn't even help. Studio 2. I've never heard of that label.
No. Perhaps that's something to do with TV, BBC or something, I don't know.
Oh yeah, maybe, maybe.
Um So number six, have we
No,
fallen out? No,
that was number six. So now we're into the top five.
number five. Sorry, I'm doing it again. The best of Helen Reddy. Now, I don't know Helen Reddy.
The only song I can think of by her, she had a song called "I Am Woman."
Right.
Um, uh, Easy listening. Yeah. At number four, up one, "A Trick of the Tail" by Genesis. I'm not terribly familiar with this period, but I do know this was the first album without Peter Gabriel, so this is the first one with Phil Collins doing all the vocals. Apparently, they'd auditioned a bunch of different singers, and he ended up stepping out from behind the drums and doing it, and they would go on, of course. I mean, moving into that bigger period of fame, but at this point, I think they were still quite prog.
I much prefer Peter Gabriel, so probably, that's probably why I've not heard anything off this one.
I
I
can't
really
think of any.
like them.
I think that this had a song that people seem to know on it called "Dancing the Volcano," but other than that, I'm not
No, doesn't
familiar
ring
enough.
any bell.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't know whether it's the first one, Selling England by the Pound. That was a really good one.
I think that was the one that was right before this one.
Oh, was
That was
it?
that
Yeah.
was
Well,
the
that
no
was a
no no
good
no no. I'm
album.
sorry. I'm thinking of "The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway." "Selling England by the Pound" might have been the one before that.
Yeah, that's a good album, that one. Now then, this is a very funny one, Tim, because Music Express, I thought, what the hell's that? So I Googled it. And the minute I Googled it, I recognized it. And my mum and dad had this on cassette. It was a compilation album and it
Yeah,
had on it,
K-Tel.
yeah,
That's fun.
Kate, and it had Roxy Music on it. Love is the Drug.
Yeah.
It had Chris Spedding, motorbiking. I think Hot Chocolate were on it. It's just like about 12 or 14 recent hits.
Yeah.
But I remember having the cassette when I was little.
At number two, now this was an artist that was big in the 60s. I don't know that he was that big in the 70s. And then, of course, sadly, just as he was about to start making a comeback at the end of the 80s, he passed away. Roy Orbison, the best of Roy Orbison. And the fact that this is on arcade tells me that this was also a TV advertised release.
It's a strange one with Roy Orbison because you kind of think of him as like one of the greatest artists of all time, from that rock and roll era. Now, in the 70s, we had a show over here that was called the Wheel Tappers and Shunters Social Club. So in the UK, you have like these working men's clubs. They're kind of dying out now, but they would have on a Saturday night, you would have uh, a couple of acts, maybe a band and a comedian or something, and bingo, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, a meat raffle, and
There's still look the bingo is still very very popular in my
yeah.
neck of the woods anyway. Everybody every almost every night of the week you can go somewhere and play bingo.
So it was presented by a very controversial UK comedian called Bernard Manning, and a lot of politically incorrect jokes, shall we say.
Right.
And at this time, he would have these artists on, and usually they were sort of mid-level UK cabaret acts. One week, Roy Orbison was on it, and I thought he's better than that.
Well,
You know,
I think he had a period in his career where,
yeah, yeah,
things weren't selling. So I think he kind of had to ride out the 70s to get to the point where his music started being showing up, whether it was Van Halen covering Pretty Woman or, it's showing up. And I know that I know David Lynch used his music in some of his
yeah,
movies.
yeah.
So and then of course the Traveling Wilburys, but that was right around the time that he passed away. So
Oh, I thought the Wilburys was fantastic, and
yeah.
those couple of hits he had before he died, "You Got It" and "Drove All Night." Fantastic records.
Yeah. It's funny, and I've seen this too, and I've joked about it with my wife, and everybody talk. When the Traveling Wilburys first came out, this is 1988. I'd have been 14, and everybody's like, "Oh, the bunch of those old guys getting together." And then when you look at what their actual ages were, like they weren't that old. I'm
No, they're
old.
only like
I'm
it's
older than
frightening,
all of
isn't
them
it?
now.
It's frightening. They're like 30 or 40 or
Well,
something.
yeah, Tom Petty would
Well,
have been like the youngest of them. George Harrison, I think, would have been what, 40. He would have been the oldest maybe at 44, 45. But none of them they weren't really old. It was just things change. Ex- uh, the uh,
it is scary.
the attitudes change about aging and stuff. All right, so now we're at the very top of the British album charts, and I got to say, if it wasn't for my father, I probably would have never heard of this artist. But when I was growing up, he had a couple of his records, and he drove my sister and I crazy playing his records with the yodeling and I did not. I thought he was the only person in the world that liked this guy. And then when the years later I would start seeing his name somewhere else, I'm like, huh, look at that. He didn't just record for my father. The very best of Slim Whitman. Now, how this is
Slim
on the
Whitman.
British chart in 1976, that's probably the finest. There's no finer way of putting a point on the nostalgia thing. But I don't ever remember hearing his songs in any other context other than in my home,
No,
coming from my father's record collection.
it's not something that you would hear on the radio, to be honest. I don't remember it growing up or anything, whereas some of them I do. Um, and I think it is that TV thing, TV advertised.
Yeah. I mean, I
And I
guess
think,
you could call it country, but what I remember the most is that he yodeled.
yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
mean, like I said to you before, we had the one pop music TV show at this time. No, no MTV. That was years off.
yeah.
We had Top of the Pops on a Thursday, which was just used to basically show what was in the top 40. And other than that, there were very few avenues really for like the other side of things, like the punk and stuff like that. There was a kids program on ITV called Tiz Was. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
You know what? I've heard of it, but the where I heard about it, and the only place I've heard about it was one of Martin Popoff's books about the band Rainbow.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was the one. It was either the Rainbow one or the Thin Lizzy one, but I have heard of it.
Tiz was very anarchic, and when you look at it now, you wonder how it was allowed. It was a kids program on a Saturday morning, so you'd have all the cartoons on it and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You'd have like your Hanna Barbera. There was a lots of live comedy. Some of the comedians on there were like the most controversial adult comedians. So in American terms, it'd be like having Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and Sam Kinison on a Saturday morning kids show.
Right.
You wouldn't do it, would you?
Right. Right.
But
And
they
did
did
I
used
read
to have,
Lemmy was on there at times?
yes, they always had like they used to have like these bands on like Motorhead or the Stranglers or Robert Plant was on there, Rainbow, the Clash were on it. And they were like a bit of a lifeline as a kid to see the
I,
more.
I guess maybe. Yeah. It almost sounds like if Saturday Night Live was a Saturday morning kids show or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. It was very influential, and a lot of people my age, my generation, really, really have a lot of fondness for that program. And you wonder how it sort of ever went without getting banned. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of it was very near the knuckle. And a lot of the presenters, it was going out live, and you felt almost as if they were still drunk from the night before.
Could have been. Yeah.
And you had Lemmy on there, 10 past 10 on a Saturday morning, throwing custard pies at people. And
Yeah. And I mean, you put a
but
microphone on Lemmy, he had no filter.
no, but
Say anything.
amazingly, he did,
Yeah.
and
Um, that's
some of
crazy.
the comedians that they had on there were just that. Michael Palin was another one. I suppose he was a bit more um, likely to be well behaved, but yeah, it was a great outlet for the sort of music that isn't being represented here.
Yeah.
Which, when you say 1976, really, a lot of those bands come into my head more than these.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's fascinating. Yeah, before so in Canada, we didn't have MTV. We had something called Much Music, which was
Yes,
our video
yeah,
channel, which didn't start until 1984. I didn't get it where I lived until 1986. So anytime in the 80s when there was a half-hour video program on, I couldn't, get to it soon enough and try to find out when it was going to be on again. Just the idea of seeing music videos. But there was American Bandstand would be, you'd see that on Saturdays, and but it sounds that Tiz was. It sounds like the creator of that was thinking like, kids don't want to see like kid performers. They want to see real performers,
yeah, yeah.
So very innovative. And I remember reading
Yeah.
about it and thinking that sounds like something I would have liked back then. So this is great. This was a lot of fun, David. Thank you for helping me fill in the blanks on some of these names I didn't recognize.
It's all
So
right. I'm glad it was
uh,
of use on
so
some of
this
them.
this was a look at the top selling. I'm not going to say the most popular, but I'm going to say the top selling albums on the UK charts uh, 50 years ago in 1976. And the main takeaway I get from this, as a fan, is the fact that the entire Queen catalog as it existed was featured on this chart. So they were, that's always a sign when a band is reaching new heights, when people are not only buying the album that has the song that's breaking, but they go back and say, oh, they've got this album and they've got this album. And I know the same thing happened with Led Zeppelin when Physical Graffiti came out. There were a few weeks when the entire Zeppelin catalog was on the Billboard chart. So just an amazing, amazing look back. So, David, I want to thank you for doing this. We'll have to do another one. Maybe we'll do another one
Absolute 10.
from an '80s point of view. Folks, don't forget In the Lap of the Gods, Queen and Freddie Mercury anthology, fantastic book. And
And you can
David,
also hear me on the radio on Fab Radio International every Friday night on the Classic Rock Hub, an hour of classic rock music with new music that sounds like classic rock as well. And that's on www.fabradiointernational.com.
I keep meaning to check that out. By Friday night, I'm usually not in here, but David, thank you for doing that, for doing this, and we'll have you on again, and we'll talk to you later. And thanks everybody for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. And go listen to some Slim